Hey, it's James again. We're live. Have you ever tried to do a YouTube video or a training video, a how-to video, and you realized about halfway through it that you really didn't understand it that well, or maybe not as well as you thought, or you couldn't explain it in a way that was easy? Well, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to introduce you to a four-part kind of technique that I've run across that I'm working really hard to implement, and it's called the Feynman Technique. And it might be the secret to making much better videos for you if you are interested in teaching online. Because at the end of the day, if you're in an education business, it's about education and in fact teaching something to someone so that they actually can know it, understand it, and apply it. Now, one of the things that I run into in the past is something called the learning pyramid. And the learning pyramid says that you remember about 10% of what it is you read, but you retain about 80% of what you can teach. So when you get a real good handle on these four steps, you're going to find that there's a great opportunity to make much better videos, again, whether it's a YouTube video or a regular training video. So this is what we're going to cover today, and I'll go through it obviously as best as I can, but we're going to take a look at how and why this fits into creating how-to videos, how it fits in. I'll introduce the four steps of the Feynman Technique and tell you a little bit about them and how to apply them. I'll show you how I'm actually working on it, and then to wrap things up, what I'll do is I'll show you four ways you can implement them to make better videos that allow you to teach what it is that you're an expert in or passionate about to the people who you've kind of picked out or want to be able to share this information. So again, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. Channels below there, we're building out the community on a new platform, so I'm moving everything over to it when you see this. But the thing is that I have a passion for all of this online teaching and e-learning and really sharing what it is that I've been doing for the past 25 years online. So if you're interested in that and you want some help building an education business, I'd love to talk to you about it and share some of the stuff that I have. So who is this Feynman guy and how does this kind of all fit in? The first thing is he kind of ran into this in a backwards way. Now, what do I mean by that? He was actually studying, I think it was for his doctorate. And again, if I mispronounce it or I get a little bit of the story wrong, I apologize. This is the part that I researched when I was learning about this. But from what I read, he was a physicist and he had been doing all of his studying, all of his stuff, and he was working really hard on it. And I guess when you go to get your doctorate in physics or your finals, you have to do an oral exam. So I guess you have a bunch of really smart physicists, instructors, and they basically ask you questions that you have to be prepared to be able to not only regurgitate, but more importantly, understand or show that you understand all of the concepts that are involved in being a physicist. So you can imagine this isn't something that is very easy. But what he did is he looked at, well, how am I going to remember all of this stuff? And he was trying to figure out, and he looked at what traditionally the way people kind of put notes together, then they memorize the stuff. And he said, you know what, that doesn't really work for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in a completely different way. So what he did is he took himself away from where he was studying and he went to MIT and he kind of went off to an area by himself where no one could bother him, and he had a blank notebook. So he didn't bring all of his notes. He did the exact opposite. He brought a blank notebook. And he opened up the notebook, and on the top of the page, he wrote down, this is the notebook of all the things that I don't know about. So he wasn't looking for stuff that he did know. He was looking for the stuff that he didn't know. So think about that as kind of the positioning of all of this. So he's not trying to remember a script that he's regurgitating. He's not trying to remember his notes. He's trying to figure out what are the pieces that are missing. Because at the end of the day, what he said was, if I can't explain something clearly and simply, it's because I don't understand it well enough. So he knew some of that stuff. He didn't have to worry about it. He needed to understand the stuff that he really didn't know about or wasn't able to explain properly. Now, if you're thinking about this and you're going, well, what the heck does this have to do with me? Well, just think if you go to YouTube right now and you take a look at any YouTube about how to create YouTube videos, or more importantly, if you're creating an online course, you have an education business, you're trying to create your course, if you go take a look at what you're being taught there on YouTube, you're going to kind of find that there's some particular steps. You know, the first thing you might be told is, hey, you got to be able to do all your research and your planning for your how-to video or your YouTube video. And that means all sorts of things like, you know, making sure you understand your audience and who you're helping out, picking out a proper topic and doing all the research about it so they understand the topic and the keywords and all the stuff that people are searching for. You have to kind of figure out, you know, how do I structure these videos? How do I put them together? And, you know, how do I outline them and put a script together, something that I can follow? And then after you've actually created a video, maybe told, hey, it's time to have a good title and a thumbnail, because if you don't have a good thumbnail, no one's going to see it. If you don't have a proper title that explains what it is, no one's going to stay and watch the whole thing. So you got to research and planning, a title and thumbnail, and then at some point you got to do that. I have to actually do the filming. And if you've got the filming put together, it's like, do I have a camera? Do I have a proper backdrop? Do I have a microphone that works correctly or the way that I wanted it to work? All of that stuff with cameras and technical stuff can be, you know, kind of difficult and not particularly fun. And then does this guarantee some of these things? Does it actually guarantee that that's going to make a good video? No, not at all. Has nothing to do with the outcome of your video, or more importantly, your ability to actually teach it. And I'm not even talking about optimizing the video and spending time editing it and trying to put it all together. And some people say, well, that's great. Recently, there's all this stuff about AI tools, right? Well, you can do the research using ChatGPT or Claude, or you can have ChatGPT or Claude put together the script and read from a script, and have a teleprompter to find your bullet points, or have your actual script and read from the script on the teleprompter. So there's all sorts of things that you can do there, but it has no guarantee other than the fact that you've created a video. It doesn't mean it's going to be something that is a great how-to video or something that you can teach to someone so that they can particularly apply it. So here's exactly what Feynman said in his 4 kind of steps. So I'm going to go through those right now, and then I'll show you how I'm trying to apply them working through it. So what he did is he said, you know, first thing is you have to have a really understanding of the concept or the big picture of what it is that you were doing. And what he did, of course, is he's doing a physics exam. So he knew it was a physics exam, but he had to kind of figure out fluid dynamics, you know, materials. He had to do all the different categories of that concept, and he had to have a really good big picture of what it is that he was actually studying for, or in this case, that he needed to teach. So that was the first thing he did. He said, you know what? I got to make sure that I have this really, really, really solid, put together kind of package of what it is that I need to teach. So I'm just going to open up a screen here for you so we can take a look at it and have this as a visual reference to what we're doing. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you one little thing that's something that, you know, that where does this come from for me? Like, how am I putting this together or figuring it out? Now, my head isn't in the way, and I'll try and open this one up a little bit. This is my campus map that I use to teach about starting, building, and growing an education business. There's 10 steps in the map, and in fact, this course is free to you at trainingsites.io. If you register for the site, you're automatically registered for your course. But the very, very first topic that is in my map is all about discovering, some people call it a niche, call it what you want, but it is the big picture, the concept, or the main topic of what it is that you want to focus on in your business. So just to give you an example on some of the pieces on here, I'm going to make sure we move the screen down here so it makes sense and you can see it. But this particular one, you know, when I'm playing around and I'm working with people on this particular one, there's a number of steps that we kind of work on. And that thing, the big one is doing the 1-15-25 map. And what that is about, it's having one core concept, the 15 categories that you need to teach about, or whatever the number is. I just start with 15, but you need to have a core concept put together. So this is one of the things that we cover. So he's saying, yeah, you got to have a concept. You have to understand it really, really well. But exactly what's after that? What kind of fits in after that? So he's kind of thinking, okay, great, I got this, but can I teach it? The second thing he did is he said, you know what? You have to be able to teach that concept to a child, someone who has no idea what it is that you're studying, but you need to be able to converse with someone and be able to explain it in a way so that they will understand it and make it very, very, very simple. So what he did in his particular case is he said, you know what? I got my notebook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the concept and the categories and all of the stuff around that as if I was going to teach it to a child. So he wanted to break it down to its basic and use very, very simple terms and explanations of what he was trying to learn himself. And when he did that, he wrote it down. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, I'm going to write a script out for my video. Is that what I really need to do? I'm going to show you a trick around that in a second, but his concept, he wrote it down, he made sure he understood everything, and then number 3 is he went back, he took a look at it. He looked what he wrote down, and he said, you know what? That doesn't make sense to me when I'm just reading it, so if I can't make it so it makes sense, I don't know it well enough. And what he did at this point is he went back to his notes, he went back to his research, he went back to everything he had taken in class, and what he did is he worked on the pieces that he couldn't explain. He didn't go back and memorize the stuff or rememorize the content he knew about. He worked on the stuff that he didn't know. And he identified all the gaps or all the missing pieces. So he's got a concept, he knows the big picture, he's picked out all of the pieces that he needs to be able to teach or understand those categories, and he's written it down so it's super, super simple for someone. And then he reads it back to himself. And does it make sense? And he picks out the pieces that don't make sense. He's gone back to rewrite them so that he has them. Now, this is exactly the process that he went through to get all of this done. And the final thing, step 4 with this, when he was working through it, he said, you know what? If I can give a story or a simple example of this or an analogy of this, I've done my job because I can have a start and a finish to it. So you're probably going, okay, great, I understand that process. Where does this fit in for us? Or how is this actually working for us creating how-to videos or YouTube videos? Well, right now, personally, what I'm trying to do is make sure that all of the content that I'm creating, I'm trying to make it now as simple as possible. And more importantly, not necessarily be focused on fancy edits or doing all of that stuff. I'm trying to figure out how can I make it more simple? How can I do it in this particular case? And these are the steps that I'm personally taking. So I'm just going to go through them so you can kind of understand where I'm coming on this and see if it's something that you can apply for yourself. So I did a video earlier at the end of last week actually about picking the right business model for your education business. And the big concept was, how do I pick a business model? It was a category of the campus map. It's about, hey, how am I going to deliver all this? It's one of the steps. But there's 2 options that are in there that I'm trying to explain to people. So I figured I better have a video about that so I can teach people the difference of which ones are which and which ones apply to the person's situation and how they might be able to use it. So what I did is I started off with a mind map. And again, I'll put the links below to this one, the tools that I use. Any mind mapping tool will work. I use one called Xmind. And basically, I put together a map that looks something like this. I have my big concept or the video title or the part that I was focusing on the video. And I broke it into 4 different areas. The purpose of the business model, where it fits in, what the 2 are. How the delivery of your content, what it is you teach is different, the types of ways that you deliver it, and the types of people you deliver it to. So those were kind of the 4 big pictures, and what I did is I tried to figure out and introduce, in this case, whether you're going to build for your education business a membership site or you want to build a learning campus. And we talked about what's the purpose of a membership site and what's the purpose of a campus. And I did that for each of these particular sections. What kind of content do you deliver in a membership site? What kind do you deliver in a learning site? So I went through these things, and what I did is I didn't write them down. So I didn't write them down. What I actually did is I did a I did a zero edit video and I recorded it. And I actually did the presentation that I would have done if I was creating a video, but I didn't do any of the edits. I did it right from the start. And in fact, I recommend doing that. Like, it's just like, am I having a conversation with a friend or someone that I don't know that I'm trying to teach this stuff to? How can I verbally explain it? And what are the parts visually that I have to include while I'm explaining it so that someone understands it? So all I did is I actually recorded the video from start to finish. Once I had the video done and one version of it, of course, what did I do? I took a look and watched the video through to find out, did I explain it properly? And if I was giving this to someone for the first time to understand it, would they understand the difference between a membership site and a learning campus and what they should think about if they're kind of deciding which of those kind of business models that they would want to use in their business? So I just watched the video, and in the video, take a look and say, hey, I really know my stuff there. Exactly what I wanted to get across. In these parts, it was like, ooh, I better do that over again. Now, normally what happens is if you're doing traditional videos, it's like you do all these videos with all these takes and all these edits, and you try and put all the pieces together in a way that has a congruent story all the way through it. That part has nothing to do with what you're teaching. It's about trying to piece together the structure of the pieces, not what's being taught in the pieces. So that's what I'm working on now. It's like a record one through, go back and take a look at it, figure out what are the pieces that I'm having trouble with and where can I fill them in before I do a second or final video. Now, of course, there may be a third one. If I go to the second one, it's not great. But the thing is, I now have the ability to go through the content that I'm trying to teach and make sure that it makes sense right across the board. So that's the process that I'm going through. It's Feynman's technique, and I'm working on really hard on making sure that I learn about the gaps and how this fits in. Now, finally, the last kind of piece on this is, what do you want to actually spend time with? The first thing that I want to suggest is that you may be taught, and I have courses on how to use AI tools and prompts, but one of the things you might want to consider is that most people, when they're reading or trying to use AI, where do they use AI in these 4 steps? What they do is they try and get AI to write out the video script for them, to take all the notes, do all of the research and stuff, but then just spit out a video script so that they can follow the video script. I recommend you don't do that. What I'm saying is you might want to consider doing the map first. Do the mind map and only put together the talking points that you need to talk about during that particular section that you're working on. So if I'm looking at the purpose of, in this case, for example, I was looking at the talking points. I was talking about the purpose of the business model and the 2 different business models. These are the talking points that I had that I was talking about during the video. I wasn't reading off a script word for word and trying to get ChatGPT to do a particular style and prompting and trying to get it so that it was using words that were at a grade 8 level or something along those lines. I wasn't doing all that. I had my talking points. So first thing is, get your mind map together, get your talking points, and put it together. Once you've got that and you've done a copy, the thing that I've been doing is I've been using or going back to ChatGPT or any of the AI tools to flush out the areas that I can't explain, that I don't have enough of an understanding on. Now, I'm not saying don't use ChatGPT when you're working through this. Obviously, you can still do your research with it. And there's some really great tools, for example, with Claude and Notebook LM, which I've covered in some other videos, is where you can now organize your research for all of these particular categories or topics that we're working on in the concept. So you can organize that, do your research there, but I'm suggesting you do your videos or get good, or no, you get more comfortable at doing your videos, working off talking points and not reading off of a script. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing. The mind map, talking points, work on that and work from your research. Do a perfect take with your setup. That's the wrong word. Do a single take video, start to finish, explaining everything that's in your concept and watch it. After you've watched it, take a look at the sections that you don't think work or that you need to have some more explanation of that's simpler for the people that you're trying to help. And once you've done that, go and do another video. If you have to edit, obviously do some edits. All I'm suggesting, if you follow those kind of steps of going through using Feynman's technique and using it yourself, I think you're going to find that the videos that you're doing are not all about editing, but they're all about teaching and trying to figure out how can I make it as simple as possible to understand from front to back. That's how I'm using it personally. If that makes sense to you, try it out and see what happens. And if I didn't explain it well enough, let me know in the comments below and I'll try and clarify it as best I can. So my name is James, it's trainingsites.io. Hope you enjoyed this quick session. I do these every day and I have live sessions on Wednesday at 1, open classroom. So if you want to join me then, that would be great. Take care and expect the best.